Remember when buying a new bike was exciting? Not anymore. Walk into a dealership today and you'll see row after row of unsold motorcycles, bikes that should have been a hit but turned out to be flops. In this countdown, we're exposing 7 bikes that are gathering dust while dealers try everything to move them. Number 7. Kawasaki W800. At first glance, the Kawasaki W800 looks like a dream for old-school motorcycle enthusiasts. It's got all the visual charm you could ask for: wire-spoke wheels, generous chrome accents, a sculpted fuel tank, and a deeply nostalgic upright riding position that screams vintage British twin. Kawasaki built it as an homage to the classic W series from the 1960s, and in terms of design, they nailed it. But that's also where the good news ends. Underneath its gorgeous throwback exterior, the W800 is stuck in the past in all the wrong ways. Powering the bike is an air-cooled vertical twin engine with a displacement of 773 cubic centimeters. It produces just 50 horsepower and 46 pound-feet of torque numbers that feel severely underwhelming in 2025. While the engine is smooth and the exhaust note is pleasing, there's simply not enough punch to justify the bike's price tag, especially when compared to competitors that offer far more performance for the same or even less money. With a starting price of $10,099, the W800 falls into an awkward pricing zone. It is significantly more expensive than a Honda Rebel 500, which offers a similar retro vibe at a much lower cost. And it's outclassed by the Triumph Speed Twin 900, which offers 64 horsepower and 59 pound-feet of torque. That means riders looking for a budget-friendly retro bike will skip it for a cheaper option, and those chasing performance will lean toward Triumph or even Royal Enfield's newer Interceptor. The W800 also has a weight problem. Tipping the scales at 496 pounds, it feels top-heavy at low speeds and sluggish in tight corners. This makes it harder to handle than you'd expect from a middleweight cruiser. It lacks the agility of more modern platforms and doesn't deliver the kind of ride that encourages spirited backroad riding. The 5-speed transmission and basic suspension setup only add to the bike's limitations, leaving it feeling outdated. Not in a charming way, but in a frustrating one. Comfort is one area where the W800 earns some praise. The upright handlebars, plush seat, and neutral riding position make it pleasant for short rides and city cruising, but that comfort fades on longer trips. The lack of wind protection, the limited fuel capacity, and the modest engine power all combine to make highway travel or extended journeys feel like more work than fun. It looks like it could ride across state lines, but in reality, you'll be refueling and resting your back before the first 100 miles are up. Another issue the W800 faces is its identity. It's not a performance machine. It's not a high-tech commuter, and it's not rugged enough to be a practical everyday bike. It's stuck in a narrow niche, a vintage-styled cruiser that offers no standout performance, technology, or customization appeal. And in today's motorcycle market, where buyers demand either power, versatility, or modern features, that's a losing combination. Despite Kawasaki's well-earned reputation for quality and reliability, the W800 has failed to catch on. It's a bike that may appeal to collectors or hardcore retro lovers, but for most riders, it simply doesn't offer enough. And that's why you'll still see W100s collecting dust on showroom floors. And from one classic misfire to a Japanese cruiser that aged overnight. Number 6. Yamaha Bolt RSpec. When the Bolt RSpec first arrived on the scene, it looked like Yamaha had cracked the code for a modern urban cruiser. It had raw styling, a minimalist silhouette, and just enough attitude to appeal to younger riders looking for an alternative to the classic American cruiser. But here in 2025, the Bolt RSpec feels like a relic. Not because it's old, but because it never really evolved. At the heart of the bike is a 4-stroke air-cooled V-twin engine with a displacement of 942 cubic centimeters. It puts out around 51 horsepower and 63 pound-feet of torque. While those numbers were competitive when it debuted, they fall short by today's standards. The throttle feels soft and acceleration isn't going to turn any heads. Compared to modern alternatives, it's simply outgunned. Yamaha built the Bolt RSpec to go up against Harley's Sportster models, especially the 883 and Iron 1200. It featured stripped-down styling, a solo seat, and compact frame geometry. But where Harley leaned into modernizing its offerings over time, Yamaha let the Bolt stagnate. It still rides on traditional rear twin shocks, lacks ride modes, and the dashboard remains basic. A small digital screen nestled into a round analog-style display. No Bluetooth, no advanced tech, and no rider assists. With a starting price of $8,899, the Bolt sits in an awkward place. It's more expensive than the Honda Rebel 500, but doesn't offer anything close to the performance or premium fit and finish of higher-tier cruisers like the Indian Scout Bobber. Even Royal Enfield's new Meteor and Super Meteor lines are stealing attention, offering riders more modern features at a lower cost. Riders often describe the Bolt as good enough. Good enough for short rides, good enough for the city, good enough to look cool. But that's not the same as being great. It's also not a comfortable bike for long distances. The low seat height and mid-controls are fine around town, but after an hour on the highway, the ride starts to feel harsh and cramped. The suspension struggles over bumps, and the limited range from the small 3.4-gallon tank means frequent fuel stops. Handling is passable. The narrow frame and low weight, around 542 pounds, make it nimble in parking lots and tight turns. But its older chassis design and lack of cornering clearance hold it back when you want to push it harder. It's a cruiser that tries to look aggressive but rides like a commuter. Over the years, the Bolt RSpec built a cult following. Riders appreciated its simplicity and its customization potential. But in 2025, that market has shrunk. New riders expect more from factory builds. They want better tech, stronger engines, and real long-term versatility. The Bolt offers none of those. It's a motorcycle built for a moment that passed years ago. Yamaha hasn't officially discontinued the Bolt yet, but production has slowed significantly. The writing is on the wall. Most dealers are quietly phasing it out of the lineup in favor of newer models that better reflect the demands of today's riders. And on showroom floors, the Bolt RSpec tends to be the bike everyone walks past without a second glance. We research every bike on this list so you don't waste your money at the dealership. If you're finding this helpful, hit that subscribe button. And speaking of motorcycles nobody's riding, let's talk about the adventure bike that was supposed to save Harley. Number 5. Harley-Davidson Pan America. When Harley rolled out the Pan America, it was more than just a new model. It was a statement. This was Harley's first real shot at entering the adventure touring market, a segment long dominated by the likes of BMW, Honda, and KTM. Instead of chrome and low-slung frames, the Pan America came tall, aggressive, and loaded with tech. It was a bold move, and on paper, it had the potential to reshape Harley's image for a new generation of riders. But it didn't work out that way. At the heart of the Pan America is the Revolution Max engine, a liquid-cooled V-twin that displaces 1,152 cubic centimeters. It produces 150 horsepower and 94 pound-feet of torque, which puts it squarely in competition with the big boys like the BMW R1250 GS and the KTM 1290 Super Adventure. The numbers are impressive. In fact, it is one of the most powerful Harleys ever made. But numbers aren't everything, especially when your audience doesn't trust the badge on the tank. While the Pan America impressed reviewers with its specs, the riding public quickly ran into problems. Early models were plagued with reliability issues, glitches in the electronics, unexpected engine overheating, and clunky gear shifting. Some owners reported bikes spending more time at the dealership than on the road. The much-hyped adaptive ride height, which was supposed to automatically lower the seat at stops, sometimes malfunctioned. And when it did, it shook rider confidence in Harley's ability to deliver dependable modern tech. Ergonomically, the Pan America was solid. It offered an upright riding position, wide handlebars, and adjustable windscreen that made it comfortable for long-distance touring. The seat height was manageable for most riders, especially with the ride height adjustment system working properly. But that comfort couldn't outweigh the cloud of skepticism that hung over the bike from the moment it launched. The Pan America also struggled with identity. Traditional Harley riders didn't see it as a real Harley. It was too tall, too quiet, and too foreign to what they were used to. At the same time, hardcore adventure bike enthusiasts weren't ready to give up their tried and true European machines for a first-generation entry from a cruiser brand. It found itself in the awkward position of trying to win over two groups who didn't want it. Price-wise, the Pan America started at $17,699 for the standard model and $20,399 for the special, which included electronic suspension, aluminum skid plates, handguards, and other upgrades. That pricing wasn't outrageous for the segment, but it was high enough that buyers expected perfection, and perfection is not what they got. Off-road capability was decent but not class-leading. On pavement, it handled better than expected with good balance and responsive braking. But again, Harley wasn't offering anything that beat the competition. In a category filled with decades of refinement, the Pan America felt like a first draft in a room full of polished veterans. It was a solid effort, but it arrived too late, and it didn't do enough to stand out. Despite its horsepower and the most technologically advanced platform Harley had ever built, the Pan America simply didn't ignite the excitement the company needed. But Harley's not the only one losing ground. Even the Europeans are facing showroom shame. Number 4. BMW 900XR. This bike was supposed to be the perfect bridge between sport bike excitement and touring comfort. On paper, it promised versatility, everyday usability, and that signature German engineering. The idea was simple. Blend aggressive styling with upright ergonomics and give riders a bike that could carve up canyon roads and cruise highways in equal measure. But when the rubber hit the road, things didn't go according to plan. At the heart of the bike is a parallel twin engine with a displacement of 895 cubic centimeters. It delivers 99 horsepower and 67 pound-feet of torque. Those are respectable numbers for a middleweight sport tourer, and performance-wise, it's no slouch. The throttle response is sharp, the engine revs willingly, and the torque comes on early. But despite the decent specs, the F900XR struggled to find its identity and its buyers. Weighing in at 482 pounds, the XR isn't light. It feels top-heavy, especially at low speeds, and the balance doesn't inspire the kind of confidence sport bike riders expect. Meanwhile, long-distance riders quickly realized it lacks the wind protection, seat comfort, and luggage options of larger touring machines. It's too aggressive for relaxed touring and too bulky for spirited back-road fun, and that's a problem. Then there's the price. The starting cost of the F900XR is $11,695, which puts it in direct competition with several more refined or purpose-driven models. Bikes like the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT or even Suzuki's GSX1000GT offer either better features or stronger brand loyalty in the touring class. And for just a little more money, buyers can step into full-size touring machines with better road presence, better comfort, and more advanced electronic packages. Speaking of electronics, the XR isn't short on tech. It comes with cornering anti-lock brakes, multiple ride modes, traction control, and a full-color digital display. Optional packages can add semi-active suspension, keyless ignition, and even quick shifting. But none of it truly stands out in today's competitive market. In a sea of bikes offering touchscreen navigation, adaptive cruise control, and integrated Bluetooth systems, the XR just doesn't feel cutting edge. It's competent, but that's about it. Comfort is also a mixed bag. The upright riding position and adjustable windscreen offer good ergonomics for short rides, but the seat can feel stiff after an hour or two, and the engine buzz creeps into the bars at higher speeds. Riders expecting long-range smoothness often find themselves fatigued sooner than expected, and the bike's angular design, while eye-catching, hasn't aged gracefully in the eyes of many traditional touring fans. For older riders especially, the XR's design can feel too sharp and aggressive without backing it up with the ride quality to match. Even BMW's loyal following has been hesitant. The XR lacks the prestige of models like the R1250GS or the K1600 GTL. It doesn't offer the iconic boxer engine feel or the ultra-smooth inline six. As a result, it hasn't carved out a loyal niche. Instead, it sits awkwardly in showrooms while buyers go elsewhere. either toward cheaper, simpler machines or toward full-featured luxury tourers. Despite having a solid spec sheet and the BMW badge, the F900XR just hasn't lived up to its potential. From awkward hybrids to full-on American excess, our next one is all show and no go. Number 3. Harley-Davidson CVO Street Glide. At $50,000, the CVO Street Glide was supposed to be the ultimate expression of Harley-Davidson luxury. Factory custom paint, exclusive trim, a high-performance engine, and all the technology Harley could pack into one bike. On paper, it was meant to be a dream machine for touring riders who wanted the very best. But for most longtime Harley owners, the reality hit hard, and not in a good way. The heart of the CVO Street Glide is the Milwaukee 8 114 V-twin, delivering 115 horsepower and 139 pound-feet of torque. It also features a displacement of 1,917 cubic centimeters. Those are impressive numbers for a touring bike, no doubt. The problem is, Harley offers nearly identical performance in the Street Glide Special, which starts at just over $29,000. So why spend nearly twice as much for a factory-upgraded version when you can build your own dream machine and still come out ahead? The CVO Street Glide also comes equipped with a 12.3-inch color touchscreen infotainment system with navigation, Bluetooth, and advanced rider assist features. The Rockford Fosgate audio setup pumps out powerful, crisp sound even at highway speeds. You get heated grips, high-end seat stitching, color-matched accessories, and a long list of finishing touches that scream premium. But none of those features justify the jump to $50,000, especially when the core ride remains largely the same. Depreciation is another massive issue. Unlike most Harley models, which tend to hold value well on the used market, CVO bikes drop sharply in price the moment they leave the showroom. Riders who spent top dollar on a brand new CVO often find that just 1 year later, their resale value has taken a serious hit. And in today's market, buyers are more cautious than ever. Spending $50,000 on a motorcycle that loses $10,000 to $15,000 in value the moment you sign the paperwork just does not sit well with most people. Comfort and touring capability are not lacking. The CVO Street Glide glides down highways with ease. The suspension is smooth, the seat is plush, and the Milwaukee 8 engine delivers effortless cruising power. But again, all of these strengths are also present in the much cheaper Street Glide Special. For a lot of riders, the extra polish and luxury appointments just do not add enough to justify the price. Customization is another key reason why this bike struggles. Harley riders love to make their bikes their own. With the CVO, much of the design is already finished at the factory, leaving less room for personal expression. And for $50,000, most Harley fans would rather pick their own paint job, build out their own audio setup, and choose their own comfort and performance mods. That freedom to personalize is part of what makes Harley ownership special, and it is largely missing from the CVO buying experience. So what you end up with is a motorcycle that is undoubtedly premium, but not premium enough to justify the price. The features are top tier. The performance is solid, the comfort is excellent. But when you can get 90% of the same ride for nearly half the cost, it is easy to see why the CVO Street Glide is not flying off dealership floors in 2025. And while Harley was busy overpricing luxury, another Japanese brand over-engineered a bike nobody understood. Number 2. Suzuki GSX1000GT. A modern sport touring machine with bold, angular styling, a riding position built for comfort, and the heart of a sport bike underneath. It had the power, the pedigree, and the promise to go head-to-head with the likes of Yamaha's Tracer 9 GT and Kawasaki's Ninja 1000 SX. And yet, in 2025, this Suzuki is gathering dust in dealerships across the country. At its core, the GT is powered by a liquid-cooled inline 4-cylinder engine with a displacement of 998 cubic centimeters. It delivers 150 horsepower and 78 pound-feet of torque, making it one of the strongest sport touring platforms in its class. That's the same proven engine derived from Suzuki's legendary GSXR lineage. Rev-happy, aggressive, and more than capable of carving up back roads or blasting down the interstate. On paper, it checks every box. But then the problems start to show. For starters, Suzuki priced the bike at $13,299. That places it uncomfortably close to higher spec touring machines with more premium electronics and comfort features. And while the GT includes a large full-color display, smartphone connectivity, integrated luggage mounts, and adjustable suspension, the overall tech package feels a generation behind. Riders expecting cruise control, electronic preload adjusters, or semi-active suspension might find the GT lacking. The ergonomics, while better than a full-on sport bike, are still a little too aggressive for many long-distance touring fans. The seat is narrow, the windscreen offers limited protection for taller riders, and the overall setup leans more towards sport than comfort. That puts it in a strange middle ground, too tame for hardcore sport riders and not plush enough for full-time tourers. It ends up being a compromise that few buyers are looking for in 2025. Weight is also a concern. Tipping the scales at 544 pounds, the GT feels stable at speed, but cumbersome in parking lots and tight corners. It's not unwieldy, but it's not as flickable as some of its lighter rivals. The fuel tank holds 5 gallons, which is adequate for mid-range touring but not exceptional, especially considering the power on tap encourages spirited riding, which in turn drains fuel faster than advertised. One of the biggest strikes against the GT is its identity. It doesn't fully embrace the luxury touring role, nor does it carry enough edge to be a true sport bike alternative. And in today's motorcycle landscape, clarity of purpose matters. Buyers want a bike that does one thing really well, not a bike that does many things almost well. And that's where the GT stumbles. It's a jack of all trades, but master of none. Even among Suzuki loyalists, the excitement around the GT cooled off quickly. Riders who gave it a shot often found themselves wishing for more refinement or more focused performance. And those shopping for versatility usually turn to more balanced options like the Yamaha Tracer or even Honda's NC750X, which offers better fuel economy and everyday usability at a lower price. Despite its impressive engine and respectable specs, the GSX1000GT remains one of the most overlooked bikes in its category. It's fast, aggressive, and has serious potential, but without a clear audience and with too many compromises, it just hasn't found its place. But if you think that one was misunderstood, the last one on this list is straight up ignored. Number 1. Honda Shadow Phantom. The Shadow Phantom used to be one of the most trusted names in the middleweight cruiser world. For years, it earned a solid reputation among beginner riders for being reliable, easy to ride, and classically styled. It was the kind of bike that just worked. Simple mechanics, smooth power delivery, and a low seat height that made it feel approachable to almost anyone. But in 2025, that formula isn't cutting it anymore. At the heart of the Shadow Phantom is a liquid-cooled V-twin engine with a displacement of 745 cubic centimeters. It produces 44 horsepower and 47 pound-feet of torque, numbers that were passable a decade ago, but now fall flat compared to modern cruisers in the same price bracket. Riders today expect more performance, even from entry-level bikes, and the Phantom just doesn't deliver. Priced at $7,899, the Shadow Phantom sits dangerously close to bikes that offer much more for the money. The Honda Rebel 1100, for instance, offers 86 horsepower and 98 pound-feet of torque, more than double the output of the Shadow for just a few $1,000s more. And if you step outside Honda's lineup, bikes like the Yamaha Bolt or Royal Enfield Super Meteor provide better value, more style, and in some cases even more engine displacement. The outdated shaft drive system, once considered a selling point for its low maintenance, now feels like an anchor. It adds unnecessary weight and dulls throttle response compared to modern chain or belt drives. At 463 pounds, the Shadow Phantom isn't exactly heavy, but it doesn't feel nimble either. Add in the underpowered engine, and it becomes clear why many riders feel it's sluggish in both city traffic and on open roads. What really hurts the Shadow Phantom is its lack of progression. The bike hasn't meaningfully changed in years. No advanced rider aids, no smartphone integration, no upgraded suspension or digital instrumentation. It still has a small 2.9-gallon tank, a basic 5-speed transmission, and old-school analog gauges. While this simplicity might appeal to some traditionalists, the broader market has moved on to bikes that combine classic styling with modern tech. Comfort-wise, the Shadow Phantom does hold up. The ergonomics are relaxed, the seat is low and wide, and the forward pegs make it easy for riders of all sizes to settle in. But once the comfort fades, the lack of power and features becomes painfully obvious. The bike feels like it's holding back. It's fine for a short ride to the diner or a slow cruise through town, but for anything beyond that, it's underwhelming. Dealerships are starting to feel the pressure. As more models sit on showroom floors, unsold and unchanged, buyers are walking past the Phantom without a second glance. Even first-time riders, once the Phantom's core audience, are skipping it in favor of more modern, better-equipped entry-level bikes. The used market is also saturated with shadows from previous years, many in excellent condition and available at steeply discounted prices, which further reduces the appeal of buying a brand new one. Which bike do you think deserves a second chance, and which one should be scrapped for good? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more straight-up motorcycle breakdowns.